But I like to think we innovated it.
A new microphone smell.
Is it now?
Yours doesn't?
Dude, I can't smell shit.
Well, at least you can't smell bad breath. You're
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
Or, yeah, I mean, I could work the other day. One of the patients just totally just shit all himself, and everybody was just like, ugh, and I'm just like, I can barely smell. I could smell it. I mean, it's that bad, but I was like, it's tolerable for me, you know. So,
You know what you can't smell?
with
It's
the No Class Podcast.
just for those, since we don't have a video podcast, you guys may not hear it. Matt also joined in on the it's. Because I'll admit, sometimes I jump the gun and do the whole thing. It's the No Class Podcast. So there you go.
There you go.
One for you, Matt. One for you.
Thanks, buddy.
So welcome to episode
Yes.
55. Can you believe that?
Wow. It's a long way.
Yep. A couple more and we'll have as many podcasts as you have years on Earth.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
When we get to the 75th one.
I know. 75. I can't wait.
Hey, and for the 75th podcast, we should do a live play.
I really want us to do not a live play, but a recorded play.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
You know,
Forward progress is being made.
I would say we could get snockered, but there's already people that do drunken live gaming casts or whatever.
Yeah, I've already got that recorded too.
That's right.
That's the blackmail cast.
Duh.
Well, duh.
Well, duh.
You have to admit you appreciated those getting slipped into the previous.
Oh, I'll have to listen. Okay.
What?
I guess
you missed an episode of your favorite podcast?
I know. Can you believe it? I'm not saying I love the sound of my voice, but
he loves the sound of my voice is what it is.
Duh. And then
So
I get
I
to stroke his
appreciate that.
beard, you know, lovingly. All right.
You've got the shavings collected at home is what I'm picturing. You've got them glued onto a pillow.
I do.
While you listen to the podcast.
Exactly.
And you're like, make that point again, Eddie. Make it again. With your host, Eddie.
And Matt.
This is why this is the most entertaining RPG podcast you folks can be listening to.
As someone said, y'all's rapport. That's one way to put it.
You're not here for the D&D conversation or the RPG conversation. You're here for this witty banter and the rapport that we have between two close, lifelong friends.
Well, it's getting to be about that way.
At least for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Duh. If I keep smoking all this meat and cheese, now there's like sludge in my arteries. But yeah. All right. Okay.
All right. So this is the part of the show. Hey, speaking of that, I was about to say this is the part of the show where we talk about books and movies, but it's not. It's the part where we talk about
the long con. That's always our lead in. You are remiss, sir. I cannot believe you would forget our format.
This whole thing's falling apart.
I forget the format every time we do it, but the one thing I remember is do long con first. So again, excitement is building. We have confirmed Brendan LaSalle. I think we've already mentioned that a couple times, and we've been in communication with him, and so just really excited. Brendan's just a great guy. And a lot of fun. And
he's very hyped up for this.
Yeah, yeah. And I
think he could be more excited than us.
Yeah, that's possible. That's highly possible.
He doesn't get to go to that many conventions.
Yeah,
he's kind of a stay-at-home homebody guy.
Yeah, right. But no, well, you got to figure here for a guy who they called beast mode, who would just devour conventions left and right, and then to be told stay your butt at home and do them virtually. Oh, I bet he's champing at the bit, man.
I bet he loved it.
Yeah.
I bet he was curled up at home with a good book, seeing his wife, and like this is the life, at least for, I don't know, the new reality. Like it's not going to be forever, so enjoy that couple of years relaxation, and then back on the trail, back on the campaign trail.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like Caesar's legions. Let's bring that all back around.
Yeah, wow, yeah. You're talking about Las Vegas, right, or New Vegas? Caesar's legions. Or am I thinking something?
I was talking about the actual Roman armies.
Oh, Roman. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, yeah. Well, they're conquer the known world, man. Yeah, the roads are still standing today.
You've seen them too.
I have, yeah. And I tell you that, I also, just since you brought it up, it was really something to be standing in a spot. And I turned to the person next to me and said, do you understand there's every likelihood Julius Caesar and or Jesus Christ walked on this path we're walking on right now. And if you really think about that, like, you know, yeah, man, I did the head blowing up motion, but y'all can't see that anyway, but you can, now you can in your mind's eye.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about the long con other than how it goes back to Julius Caesar?
Absolutely.
It was begun by Julius Caesar, I believe.
For once, I didn't go off on a tangent, and I appreciate that. I'm excited about our new venue, but we beat that horse to death. Anyway, who knows? We might have some help with setup, or with the con or whatever. So who knows?
That would be fantastic,
wouldn't it? Because I know our control freak micromanager would dearly love that.
This is again where we need a video podcast.
Yeah, if you can see a look on his face for once. Anyway, no, I won't berate it, but I'm excited. I'm also excited though about GaryCon.
Okay.
Yeah, we are going to GaryCon.
What's so exciting about it?
Well, I know that there's a lot of people that we interact with via NTRPG, you know, which we love, and that have really ballyhooed GaryCon in recent years. They're like, it's got that smaller flavor and old school, blah, 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 but it's getting big, you know, and it's going to be the next probably Game Hole or something. And no, nothing to, not to denigrate Game Hole, but I mean, they're like, what, 5,000 people now or something? And you just kind of feel like you get lost in the crowd. That's why I love NTRPG and LongCon, because, you know, you're like, hey, buddy, you know. And
when you're here, your family.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you know what? That ought to be our motto. Or
okay, I'll talk to the Olive Garden about it.
Exactly. But anyway,
I'm looking forward to getting to play on some of the same tables with you for a change.
Yeah, we always tell people
we don't get to do much.
We never get to hardly game together, so that's fun. Usually, one of us is running. So that I am looking forward to that, and I'm also looking forward to running a game there, you know. And I want to meet Reed Sanfilippo. I hope he'll be there.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
And other people. There's other names I won't rattle them off.
Once he meets us, he'll be coming to the Long Con.
You know, you're probably joking, but you never know.
Hey, it worked on Brendan, and it worked on David Beatty.
Absolutely. We can be a couple of charming devils.
As if this podcast wasn't proof enough. They know. They're charmed.
They know.
They're under our siren spell right now.
Oh, my. Doobie doobie doo. All right. So what's next?
He's good at detail. He's good at detail.
Doing all right.
Comic books. You got any books or comic books?
I do have some comic book news. Okay. It got you under my wheels. Oh, okay.
It's sing-along night here on the No Class RPG podcast.
All right. Superman #1 recently sold for $2.6 million.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but I am the one that bought it.
I'm not surprised. All that long con money, you know.
It's true.
We're rolling in it.
That's the whole thing. That's what this scheme has been behind it the whole time.
We're dollionaires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can get off anything we want off the dollar menu.
Exactly. I feel so. Put your pinky out. Put both pinkies out. All right. That was my little bit of comic book news.
That's it?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to make something up.
I hear you.
That was too much build up for such a little amount of news.
Well, I mean, $2.6 million for a comic book. Wow. But
Okay.
it would be Superman.
That's Superman.
Yeah. What comic book news do you have, sir? Or
I have actual comic books.
you've been reading?
I've actually read things.
Oh my!
I'll go the other way that I have it written on here. But have you heard about this? Is actual real life fact.
Okay.
The Cleveland torso killer, back in like the Great Depression era.
He killed just torsos?
No, that's what they found.
Oh my!
Pretty much, that's what he left behind. He chopped off the hands and the feet and the heads, and pretty much what the cops found were torsos.
Oh wow, that's creepy.
So there is a pretty good comic written about that. Pretty good.
Oh, okay.
I mean, everybody loves the true crime stuff now, don't they?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That genre is so popular.
Murder porn.
The part that was interesting to me that kind of hooked me was, do you know who was on the case?
No.
Elliot Ness.
And the Untouchables.
Yeah, exactly. So the case was never solved.
Oh my.
That's kind of, I don't know if you have followed the life of Elliot Ness.
And the Untouchables?
But it was kind of a tragic end.
Oh,
he was not the golden boy for all this. So, I mean, he ended up running for mayor after this and just had a pathetic showing, and he never caught that guy, and it was kind of blamed on him. Yeah. But that wasn't his bag anyway. I mean,
yeah. But even then, if you think about it, he's famous for taking out Capone, but really in the end, it was a guy in his office. It's like, well, here's how we'll take him down. We'll get him for tax evasion, when they never did pin any crimes to him, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, really, if you think about it, meh. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was just a popcorn fart.
Yeah.
It was all downhill.
Wow.
So anyway, the story of the Cleveland torso killer in a comic called Torso. Aptly enough, right?
Okay.
Then this is the one. Right now, everyone in the sound of my voice, by whatever means you have to do to get this comic, you must get Rage More. Rage as in rage, and then more is like Blackmore, Moor.
Oh, okay.
That sort of thing. So this has got to be like the most DCC, and almost like, did this movie just tell me to get high? Yeah. This comic book should tell you to get high or something. But I mean, it is freaking fantastic.
Wow.
This one has DCC written all over it. You can make adventures about it.
Ooh.
So it's like 4 issues long. That's it.
But are they kind of like when I introduced you to Headlopper, there's only 4 every year, but they're pretty beefy?
Nope.
They're not beefy,
They seem like probably standard about 30-issue long comics.
Oh, wow.
And there's 4 of them, and it was, I want to say 2012, maybe even earlier than that.
Oh, so it just was like a kind of flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shame. It sounds
But
kinda,
I think that's all they wanted. They had like the 4-issue story arc.
The guy had an idea, and he wanted to put it out there.
It's so good.
I'll check that
It's
out.
the story of a living castle. So it's like they sacrificed these people on the foundations of the castle, and it drank in the blood, and then they called in these eldritch gods, and it's basically like the Cthulhu mythos castle.
Wow.
The castle moves. It shifts and changes. There's all this insane stuff going on.
It's Gonzo.
I'm giving you the 5-star lock. You must check this out.
Yeah.
This is the one.
All right. It has been put,
Rage More.
It has been put upon me, and as thus I shall read it.
I'm pretty sure it's Dark Horse too, but you should be able to find it easy enough.
Oh yeah.
You could even find it Sailing the Seas. Wink, wink. And I think there was a pretty reasonable set on Amazon as too that contains the whole thing.
I was gonna say they did the compilations. Yeah, I might get the compilation because I just love to hold something in my hand. You know.
Fantastic. Highly, highly, highly recommended. Yeah. I love it.
Sounds like it.
TV.
No TV.
Man.
Well, hold up. Well, that's where it's weird. So I've watched some things on Netflix. So does that fit here?
But is it a movie or is it a show? Does it have episodes? Is it more than an hour?
I'm going to say yes.
So then you're putting that in the wrong category, and you will be punished accordingly.
Fair enough. All right, carry on.
But I expected, since it's been a while since we've done one of these, that you would just have that massive list, and so would I, because our big news is we got a puppy here.
Oh, yeah.
So now me and Matt are proud owners of some black labs.
You betcha.
But you've got a labradoodle.
Yeah,
I've got a regular lab, like a man.
You can blame that on my ex. I wanted a German Shepherd, but you see how that played out.
That would be awesome. Okay, so with that, I have been house training the dog. So with that, I've been sitting on my couch a lot. So I've just watched a ton of shows and movies and blah, 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 blah. But do I remember half of them?
No.
And did I take notes? No.
Well, if they weren't that memorable, then, why mention it?
A lot of rewatching, too.
Well, now, wait a minute, Derp. Now, I told you that I've been watching The Witcher.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of 2 or 3 episodes.
So apparently the hook's not really set with you on the season.
I got to watch it with my wife.
There.
If I have to watch something with my wife, it will take me until the end of time.
Right, because I'm tired tonight, not tonight,
I have to watch it when she wants to watch it.
Right.
So, but The Witcher so far has been good.
Oh yeah, no, season 2, man, yeah, it's right up there with season 1. In fact, I dare say I might even like the second season better.
Huh.
So.
But I already said I rewatched Spartacus.
Yeah.
Well, guess who shows up at the end of that? Julius Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
So in some bizarre twist of fate, I rolled right back into watching Rome again.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, I think we've talked about that many a time about how great it is.
Oh man, it's funny. There's a lot of things I'm like, man, I've seen it once, I'm good. But I've watched and I think I watched Rome with like, was it wife 3, wife 4? I mean, yeah, I've watched it with, yeah. I mean, it's like you got to see this, you know.
Yeah, and it's almost where if you start it, you're going to go through the whole thing.
Yeah,
again.
Even the second season wasn't near as good as the first, but still.
Oh, I watched Hit Monkey. Did we talk about that one at all? I think we might have talked about it and maybe not on the podcast.
Yeah, I think so, because somehow that I'm like, that sounds familiar.
So are you familiar with the concept at all? That's on Hulu.
Yeah, you told me, I think, about it. Or
So
mentioned it.
a monkey hitman with a ghost hitman that's helping him along his way. It's a lot like they wanted that ghost hitman to be Archer, but it's not nearly as funny or as endearing.
You told me about this, yeah, and I quickly forgot it because it sounded pretty meh.
So I went about 4 episodes out of 10 in, and was like, nah, I'm done.
Yeah.
But then we ended up getting a puppy, ended up sitting on my couch. And I'm like, all right, I'll watch it. It was actually better at the end.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's a recommend or not.
But it just kind of wants to be Archer, quirky, kind of whatever.
Yeah. They want that character to be so funny, and he's just not anywhere near. But you could see, you could almost go with that one. Like, yeah, if they'd had the writing and the chops and maybe H. John Benjamin or whatever.
H. John Benjamin or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, if they'd had him.
I guess I'll mention this too. Is so I had devoured like the first 2 or 3 seasons of like Yellowstone, and then this most recent season came out. So it's the first time I've had to sit there like normal human beings and wait week to week to watch Yellowstone. And boy, what a phenomenon. Apparently America is really discovering Yellowstone, and people are crazy for it or whatever. But what's sad is it's like I was watching this season and it was decent, but like at one point I watched the last episode that I watched and I thought, man, that one really stunk. And then the next week there's not a new episode. I Googled, that was the finale.
For the season or for the show?
For the season.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I mean, I'm like, that was the finale? What a stinker. And I know people here will be like, you're crazy. But I'm just telling you my opinion. To each their own, you know, but that finale, I was like, oh man, there was some very bad, like, you remember when you've heard stories or you even tried watching like Walking Dead, like in season 2, there was just some really dumb, bad writing.
Yeah.
This felt like some really bad, dumb
They
writing.
have to be that stupid to move the plot forward.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden characters who are never this stupid are being stupid, or was never been this much of just a brazen coward is just groveling on the ground on his knees and stuff. And you're like going, come on, you know, I mean, it's just really bad writing. And you can tell it's kind of like as Walking Dead marched on, like Daryl got all the best lines and all the cool stuff and all this. And it's just like, oh, get it. We like Daryl, but you know, it's kind of like, anyway, it's just, they're having the beloved characters seem even more brilliant and beautiful. And the character that you were like, well, at least he had some redeeming qualities. Like, now let's make him completely loathsome and have no, and that's when, I don't know. I think anyway.
So
yeah.
with the HBO Max, I'm watching Band of Brothers.
Cool.
Which I haven't seen all of that. I've seen bits and pieces of it there. It's really good.
Well,
I've always known it's good. It's like you said, you just got to take the time and sit down and watch
you
it.
Told me that. I want to watch it. I started one time, but it was just a season in my life where I just didn't have the investment or something. But because I like war movies well enough, and I like the sound of it. And it's probably one of those things that I have to just get. Like, I think I started watching the first one, and maybe they're in boot camp, and I'm like, I don't know. We'll see.
And I started watching Succession.
Yeah. Ex-girlfriend loved that and watched it. But that's got and I love that actor, the guy who's the dad, the
Brian Cox.
Brian Cox. He's a brilliant actor.
Yep.
He is a brilliant actor.
So it's good so far, but there's no likable characters. You have to deal with that again.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh boy, I hope so-and-so does okay. It's like, nah, they can all go to hell for all I care.
I almost quit watching Yellowstone season 2 because during that season, there's a point where I couldn't stand any character. I hated all the I was like, at that point, I didn't like any of the characters.
So it's kind of like this podcast.
Yeah.
They're rooting for me.
Yeah, whatever.
rooting for me. All right, how about movies?
Movies.
You got movies.
All right. Well, I think last time I had mentioned that I had watched that one rotoscope show, the one that's like that you were like, is this
Did
trailer?
this movie tell me to get high?
Yeah. But yeah, basically it was talking about Spine of the Night, but I didn't really elaborate much. But like Spine of the Night is an homage to the epic rotoscope classics of the 80s, like Heavy Metal, Fire and Ice. It's just really bloody and beautiful. But one of the quotes that really in the movie, there's a character called Mongrel, and I'm pretty sure the voice work was done by Joe Manganiello. And he says when he's leading Xena, her character
Lucy Lawless,
her character is this shamaness who's been out in the wilds her whole life, and he was told to like capture her and bring her back. So he's bringing her like on a tied up or on a chain, and here she's being brought to a city, and she's like, oh, the smell of it and the smoke, and he says, welcome to civilization where the fearful and ignorant toil and the foolish delight in delusions of power. Anyway, I kind of thought that was kind of neat, and definitely when he delivers it, it's a really neat line anyway. But I enjoyed that. I'm trying to think of I watched that Led Zeppelin Dazed and Confused, which is like a thing about them back in the day, and and that was on Hulu. No, I got rid of Hulu. It was on Prime, I think.
That's just Prime.
Yeah. So just for those of you that have Prime, yeah, I think that was kind of cool. The Dazed and Confused. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
Speaking of Prime, I watched the Becoming the Ricardos.
I was looking at that. Yeah, I was looking at that kind of hard.
So I don't know about you. Did you grow up watching Lucy, or is it like I saw episode here or there? Because that's me.
Well, no,
episode here or there.
I'll say that, and of course, I was not decrepit enough to have. I'm kidding. No, but I'll say that as far as when I was coming up and we first had cable, like WTBS and anyway, there was a couple of those cable channels, like one was Chicago, one was Atlanta, that played a lot of old TV shows. They would play I Love Lucy in the morning, and I would watch that waiting for like the bus or something. And so, yeah, no, I back then I saw a lot of the old I Love Lucy episodes. Yeah, I saw lots of them.
One thing I was going to say is maybe because of where we are geographically, Andy Griffith's Show.
Oh, gosh.
That was always on, and I have watched all that pretty much.
I've seen every episode at least 5 times.
But I Love Lucy, those runs weren't on all the time. So I don't know if that's a regional thing or what. Yeah. Like if you were in New York, you might have got I Love Lucy in the afternoon, and they're like, they don't want to see Andy Griffith.
Yeah, see, we got like Lucy in the morning when, whatever, but like Andy Griffith came on around 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. You'd watch that while you're eating dinner, and who didn't love that homespun, good, clean Americana?
Which is a lot like living in Longview.
Yeah.
For those of you that haven't come to the Long Con yet, grab a line and grab a pole and come on down.
That's right.
So anyway, the movie was really good.
Really cool.
So it's basically a week of them filming when there's a massive crisis going on. I don't want to spoil it for you. It's like, you can't spoil history, but
if you didn't know this little nugget.
So yeah, it was pretty interesting. I do recommend you check it out.
I will.
One that I don't recommend you check out is Your Barbarian of the Future. Have you seen that one? Because it definitely sounds like one of your kind of movies.
So I just posted about that on Facebook, and because it was like the anniversary of it or something, and I reached out to my old buddy Michael Russell and said, hey, didn't we see You're the Hunter in a double feature? And he said, yeah, it was like You're the Hunter and some other god-awful D sci-fi fantasy flick. But no, it's awful. I could have told you.
It's terrible.
I think at one point he's being attacked by stuffed animals. It's quite obvious like a stuffed animal.
So I watched the Riff Tracks version, which is the Mystery Science Theater version for those of you that aren't in the know. Even that was horrible. There's been very few movies that I've seen that they can't rescue, and this is another one to add to the pile.
Even their shenanigans can't even. Yeah, no. I remember even as a kid where you're easier to impress, like lean over to Micah and being like, dude, is that like a stuffed animal or something? Yeah, I mean, and we laugh more than anything. Yeah, I mean, his dad at one point were like, do y'all want to go? And we're like, yeah. I mean, no, it was really bad.
All right. Computer games. Video games. See, we need a video podcast.
Yeah. I have unfortunately, only because I love my youngest child so dearly, was bamboozled into playing Don't Die Alone Together or whatever.
Again?
Yeah.
Still?
And oh my God, that is, again, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Ooh, that's awful. After dying for the millionth time and just being thoroughly bored, but I was loving spending some virtual time with my youngest child. As I said, well, I'm going to call it a night, Jake. I said, if you ever wondered if your father loved you, I love you very much because I've played this game for and he's like, we'll play something different next time, Dad. I'm like, that would be nice. So, yeah, there's that.
Well, I have talked about Pillars of Eternity 2, and I was having a hard time getting into it before. Mm-hmm. So I went back with, I can't even remember what the name of the other game was right now. But I was playing both of them at the same time, and I played the other one more, and it was negatively impacting me. So now that I've gone back and played Pillars of Eternity by itself, I'm enjoying it a lot more.
Okay,
so it's been a lot more fun.
I think I have that one.
Probably. Do you have one or two or both?
Hell, I don't know.
Well, I'm recommending them to you.
Okay.
They're very reminiscent of the old Baldur's Gates.
And I love those. I have a lot of fond memories of Baldur's Gate.
And then the Longview Computer Center, the place to get your computer centralized.
Anytime, every time.
Has recommended Outward to us, I think was the name of it.
Yeah, Outward. And I looked at that, and that looks very interesting.
Now, we will do a review of it if we are sponsored. If we get sponsored, we will definitely be happy to review that. So, Cody, open up the wallet there and get back to us. So I think that's about it for the minute for video games. Unusually enough, we have a mailbag question.
What?
So this is from our buddy Jonathan, and I guess this is a good a time as any to bring up that I was on another podcast.
You on another podcast?
I was cheating on you.
You bastard.
So I went on This Old Dungeon podcast.
That's by Luau Lou, isn't it?
With our good friend Luau Lou.
What a guy.
And we got one of our frequent listeners from him as well. I think he heard about our podcast through that.
Oh, thanks, Lou.
And he sent us, Jonathan sent us a mailbag question.
Mm-hmm.
And since I went on the other podcast, I find out he recycled questions.
Son of a gun.
That was our guy, too, that had written us the beautiful ones before, and then we sent him out that care package of goodies.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, he's trying to see what he can get out of the
Is he cheating
other
on
guys.
Us? Is he cheating?
I think he's the real cheater.
Jonathan. Oh,
so we may have to fly to California and confiscate his merchandise.
We're going to shake him down.
I'm trying to think if there was one where it was like where they'd like make you eat your stripes or whatever, that sort of thing, like decommission you and make you eat your stripes.
Yeah.
So you're just on warning now. This is how quickly you can fall around here. From
fall
listener of the decade,
fall from grace,
to listener probation.
That's right.
But his question is,
and
here we go again.
Luckily, I'm flat-footed here.
I'm listening. No, you've actually, if you want to get on Facebook, you can look up your answer to this. I asked you this question about a month ago.
Okay.
And you started typing out your answer, and I was like, save it for the podcast, buddy.
Yeah.
So we'll see if you remember the question.
See if okay.
You'll get right in there.
Yeah.
So from him, I'm listening to the Subclass Act podcast.
Oh, there's even another one he listens to.
See?
This
Probation.
This guy.
A solo play podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The host took the characters from classic Swords and Wizardry system through a portal and into a sci-fi system. He converted the characters to the new system and just kept playing. If you guys were going to mash up two completely different systems, what would you choose, and generally, how would you make it work?
I received no monies from Joe Goodman or Goodman Games.
But we should.
We really should. One of the things I love that when I was doing my post-APOC campaign in, at one time, my East Texas post-APOC, I used Goodman Games because it's so seamless that if you want to mesh MCC, DCC, Weird Frontiers, Crawl Jammer, or what are they? Yeah, it's what they're like. They're Space Crawl,
Star Crawl,
Star Crawl. Thank you. Or Cyber Sprawl Classics or whatever, which is it's so seamless and easy to mesh these different desperate themes or genres or whatever, but they'll mesh great because they all share that same core elegant system. And so, yeah, if I was going to, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
And
it's not like we've never done it before.
Yeah, literally, I at one point said, all right, here's every class from Weird Frontiers, MCC, American Wastelands, DCC, just take your pick and you can play, because I do a really weird gonzo post-apoc. And so what's wild, we had one guy who was playing like a Weird West poker card chart guy from Weird Frontiers alongside like a mutant from America, so forth and so on. Yeah, I mean, so it was very, I felt like it was pretty elegant, Well,
I was going to say the other thing is again, we're not getting paid, but we should. Savage Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
Just anything you wanted to start in Savage Worlds and transport it over to another setting.
And at one time I had entertained that idea. So I'd bought the future sci-fi tech book. I'd bought the post-apoc book. I'd bought the Western book. And again, you could mesh any of these elements because you've got the underlying elegant Savage World system.
Which kind of out of the major systems, the one that doesn't do it is D&D.
Yeah. Which I will say in the old, and you've heard me reference, what a brilliant, wonderful book. Like, I think the question one time we had was like, what is the one gaming book that's just you've got your total money's worth for? I think we mentioned on a podcast one time, and the original Dungeon Master's Guide, first edition, it's got tables in the back that you can convert a D&D character into Gamma World and vice versa, or into Boot Hill, the Western game, but you have to do the conversion work, and they gave you the charts that were there in the DMG. But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question.
No, great question. Thank you, Jonathan.
Keep them coming. I guess we'll lift your probation.
I guess you're on double secret probation.
But we'll be watching you.
That's right. We'll have our agents in the area,
You're going to be required to do the retail level on all of our future Kickstarters. Caverns of the Dead Guide. Coming to a Kickstarter near you. No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
This is where I would normally talk about the first edition Osric group.
But y'all switched to?
We went over to the Green Ronin Song of Ice and Fire, which is the Game of Thrones game. We spent a session 0 rolling up a house. That was fantastic fun. I highly recommend it. If you're like, I never want to play this game, get some dice and roll up the house. It's fun. It's interesting.
Neat.
It's cool. Yeah, it's a good way to spend an afternoon.
Yeah, wow.
So after we did that, we decided that group's breaking up.
Oh.
So there you go. So we shall see where your updates go from here.
That's all a great bunch of folks.
Fun times were had.
Yeah, I wish them all well, regardless. And the triumphant return of the Longview Game Club at its first meeting.
Exactly, which was really nice.
Even though we're still in the time of the COVID.
It's been a while since we broke that one out for
I
you.
know.
All of our running jokes that aren't coming back. But then again, we talked about Longview Computer Center.
Yeah, where you can get your chakras and your computer centralized.
Wow, that's a new upgrade that they've been doing.
I know. Well, they have a crystal shaman there on their crew there now, staff. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that other podcast, we had talked about the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Oh my.
But what I really love, because that's what T1 through 4.
Yeah, technically.
What I really love is T1, the Village Hommlet. And I cannot recommend that one highly enough to you guys. Even if you never go in the dungeon, you're just like, I need a home base for my guys to start out from. That one has it all. It's very cool. And I guess your equivalent would be what?
Borderlands.
Keep on Borderlands?
Keep on Borderlands. That was where I cut my teeth as a kid. It was a great springboard, and I could go back 2 point or whatever. Yeah. But it's just, I guess, whichever ones we stumbled across as a kid. But I mean, since then I've discovered Omelet, and definitely knowing you'd have to. Delicious. But we've had some real fun there, and Eddie has been able to switch things up here and there to keep it fresh. So even though I've been to the village since I've known him, 3 or 4 times, it was a different experience almost every time, which was kind of cool,
Yeah. You didn't get to do the one with the false Hydra, did you?
No.
Are you familiar with that? Well, let's see if we come back to it in my notes. Part of this, the reason we're going to do this one is because doing the other podcast, I had made copious notes and trivia that they just didn't have time for.
Yeah.
Their show went about 2.5, 3 hours. I think it was about 3 hours of recording time.
Wow.
So and it was at night.
Pack a
Like
lunch.
we're right after lunch. We're high on barbecue today, as you can probably tell. You're like, these guys really have the pep today.
Oh, we got some good
Powered
cue.
by barbecue.
That's right. Sunbird.
So this is some of the odds and ends, bits and pieces that did not fit in. So you can consider this like a companion piece.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or you can just say, screw those guys. I'm only listening to the best podcast, and that's this one. We still love you, Lou.
Podcast with the most BED.
Yeah.
BDE, whatever. Oh, man.
Okay, so random Temple or Village Hommlet, should I say, stuff that I'm going to throw at you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever even read through it?
No.
Do you remember the NPCs, Burn and Rufus?
No.
That is the kind of like Captain of the Guard and the Wizard.
Yeah.
Also, there is Jaru Ashstaff. Those characters were by Ernie Gygax, Skip Williams, and Tim Kask.
Interesting.
That was their characters that they played in Gary's
So
Dungeon.
they became in, because this Gary Gygax wrote it, the man himself. And I think he intended for this to be a good example of when you're just starting out and you're just trying to discover D&D, like here's the template for how to make your own little starter village or whatever kind of.
Yeah, it was so fantastic. And actually, I can say you did end up having to interact with Rufus. You just don't remember that the name doesn't. But remember when you guys had the Crown of Worms?
Yeah.
And all that stuff you were getting
I
identified?
will say I do remember him from us playing with him. The name is tickling the back of my brain. Yeah,
they're oddball names. They're not very D&D-esque names.
No, Rufus is a great name. I wish you'd name one of them Jethro.
Roscoe.
Yeah, Jethro. Hey, Jethro, the stable boy.
And I know you will remember the traitors. The traitorous traitors.
Mm-hmm.
How they were always screwing you over for every penny.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, have you got far enough in that book that you know who they're named after?
No.
So the traitors NPCs are Ranos, Davi, and Grimag. Ranos Davi is kind of described as a fat, slovenly, greedy man with crap on his shirt. As filthy and... Do you know who that one's named after?
No.
Arneson.
Oh,
Dave Arneson.
Burn, dude.
Yeah.
That's awful.
And we watched Secrets of Blackmore, which I don't know if we talked about that one much, or we'll talk about it when we get to that
talked about
episode.
doing the book and that. Yeah, we got to do it soon before I forget. But yeah.
But there was one part where, I want to say he's maybe Dave McGarry, the guy that did the Dungeon board game. Mm-hmm. He's the other traitor, the Weasley partner.
Well, because those two,
Arneson.
Because remember when Arneson left, he left out of solidarity. Interesting.
So that was kind of funny that there are some shots fired and shots taken.
So he put some little passive aggressive petty crap in there. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't just like these guys are the evil. Like the fat slovenly and the slender rat face sort of thing. It's
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow. Those are some neat nuggets, and you didn't get to bust it. Good.
I'm telling you,
I'm glad we got it. Then.
I'm turning this gold. I'm respinning this into our gold.
Lou, man, you missed out on solid gold, son.
One that they did talk about, and I'm back away from the mic and cough here, is that now I'm dying. Now we really need a video podcast.
The cue is getting you.
T1 was released for Gen Con 12 in 1979, and I think Bill Larsh was there for it.
Wow.
It was also released alongside the DMG and White Plume Mountain.
Yeah.
But can you imagine there was a time where they did not launch all the books together?
Oh yeah. Well, no,
they couldn't.
Back in the day, they used to stagger them. You would get the Monster Manual, and I think then the Player's Handbook, and then the DMG, which seems like a backwards order. Like, why not? Like, here's the book you need to learn how to run, and then here's for the players, and like here's the monsters or something. But no. And so what's funny was almost like a tip of the hat when they released the 3rd edition books around the turn of the century. They followed that same order, I think, of what it was like Monster Manual, Player Book, whatever. They followed they put them out one at a time. Like, why wouldn't you put them all out at once? But anyway,
this one goes back to the temple a little bit more. Oh, and I got these notes for the most part are swiped out of the Goodman Games Temple of the Elemental Evil redo. Their reprint that they changed it, and I may end up running that, I might end up do the 5th edition one just because I want to see how it goes.
Right.
Not like I'm craving to run this in 5th, but I am curious.
So do you want to hold off judgment until you've ran it, or right now, what would you tell the listeners? Like, oh man, go get it, it's awesome. Or
We talked about that on the This Old Dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
If as just a collector, if you're an old school guy, I say get it.
Just because
It's got the notes and all that kind of cool stuff. You may go like, I don't even want the 5th edition part. Throw that out the window.
Yeah.
That's fine. But there's lots of bits of trivia and art and all that. It's neat. If you like the Temple of Elemental Evil, pick it up.
And it seems like it comes in a really beautiful sleeve thing. And I mean, it's really
it's quality like all their other previous
those books.
original adventures.
I've owned those. The Goodman has really. They're good. I mean, thick gauge paper, the printing score, just a lot of extra art. And the guys that work on these are some of the best of the best. So.
And we will submit that bill for promotion to Joseph Goodman, I think was what it was.
Exactly. Oh, the Dark Master.
Send him the bill.
The Dark Master.
But this one goes back a little bit to Temple of Elemental Evil, but I think maybe you'll appreciate it too.
Yeah.
In November of 81, Gygax said that it would be out in time for Gen Con 15, Summer 82. In 1983, he said if he had 5 more weeks to work on it, it would be done. It's just like, when will I find these 5 weeks? But then he instead went off to TSR Entertainment. So that was around the time that he went out to his California period.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the reasons why the temple itself is so disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say half-baked, but terms along those lines. It never got the love.
Yeah. But, but it was such a momentous, big project.
It's the first mega dungeon for TSR.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a freaking massive project, but nobody had time. And this is where we talk about the game wizards again.
Mm-hmm.
When you start reading into that, where you're like, okay, this is where Gygax's time was.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, do I want to be the president of a company, or do I just want to be the guy that writes stuff? And in a way, he was more the artist, but in another side, he wanted to be the businessman.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a conflict, and this is the result of it.
And the product suffered because of it. Interesting, interesting.
So his notes were given to Frank Mintzner.
Okay.
And it was finished for Gen Con 18.
Wow.
Which was in 85.
Yeah, wow.
So that, I always kind of say that was the Chinese democracy of adventures, where everybody's just like, where is it?
Yeah.
It was a super module. Mintzner ran a tourney version of it at that Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just funny because it's like you start writing an adventure and then give me all the notes and go, finish it up, buddy. Mm-hmm. And this is not just some small, this will take you, one adventure session. This is the adventure that'll take you the rest of your life or something.
This is a campaign.
Forever, yeah.
Yeah, it's a campaign. Because that's one of the things about old school gaming and dungeoneering. That's why you had to have something like The Keep on the Borderlands or Hommlet, because you would delve into the dungeon, get your butt kicked, and you would crawl out and go get your friends resurrected and heal your wounds, sell your goods, buy some new equipment, trudge back in dungeon. So there would be these back and forths in and out of the dungeon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do all the little stuff on the side quests and even
get waylaid on the way there back, even,
Yeah, but kind of like you're going to have to you may have to do some grinds on the side or something so you can level up enough for the next
going
piece.
Back to just Hommlet itself.
Go back.
The Moat House. It's iconic.
Back in the village.
Right? I mean, the Moat House is just iconic. I remember when we went to the Moat House in your Otherworld campaign. What would you call it? Where we were in that jungle, Otherworld.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah. But I knew when we were in the Moat House, and I was like, oh, we're in the Moat House. And the Moat House is cool. Like, people have done 3D prints of the Moat House. I mean,
yeah, I want one.
And those damn frogs, they're iconic. I mean, those have
the death of many.
You're like, man, frogs. Those frogs have jacked some parties. There's people that like. Yeah, that's where they cut their teeth and have stories about those damn frogs. Anyway, but yeah, I just want to touch on that. But going back to the temple, those are really interesting tidbits.
Well, here's you another one. 8 weeks after it was released, Gygax is out of the company.
Wow.
8 weeks. So, I mean, just to kind of frame how that was really going on in the most controversial TSR period right there.
Yeah.
Everything's hitting the fan. Mm-hmm. So a few weeks difference, we may have never had it released.
Oh, because they wanted to poop on anything that had his name on it. Right. Oh, yeah. So think about, think how, for whatever your mileage is with it or what you think of it, it's interesting to think it might never would have even seen the light of day if the timeline had been a little different. Interesting.
And if everything had been sunshine and roses, we might have got a T2 instead of a 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. And that could have been a completely different adventure.
Yeah, what if Gary had been able to draw back and said, forget trying to be a Hollywood hotshot or sell our rights to movies and cartoons and focused on gaming? Yeah.
Or if he'd been like, hey, why don't you guys run the company and I'll focus more on being a writer.
Gamesmanship,
yeah. Making the best product.
What if indeed?
Let's see. Some other general notes. There was a Return to Temple of Elemental Evil for 3rd edition. You remember that?
Yeah. They did a lot of Return to the Tomb of Horrors, Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil. Yeah. And those are kind of hit and miss.
And I actually, Brendan LaSalle wrote something in the Temple of Elemental Evil, like his remembrances of it. And I talked to him a little about it.
Oh, cool.
The last time. So that was pretty interesting too. That's worth checking out. So I think his first experience with the temple was the 3rd edition temple.
Interesting. Yeah.
And in the moat house, there's a dragon. Strange, huh?
Wow.
So the only way that I've ever played through the whole Temple of Elemental Evil is the Atari game for PC, which was in 2003.
Wow.
Which, if you can still find it out there, I recommend it to you. It's a fun game.
Well, I bet you could probably find a version that's playable somewhere.
The cover for Temple of Elemental Evil was done by Keith Parkinson.
Yeah, I love his work.
Clyde Caldwell's first painting for TSR was called The Moat House, but it was used as the cover for AC5 PC record sheets. So I'll put that on our little visuals page.
Yeah.
But it looks like a bunch of adventurers about to go into the moat house.
Oh, cool.
But that's not used at all in any of the Temple of Elemental Evil stuff.
Or the omelets that have been redone.
Nope. So it's like, what?
Yeah.
But that was Caldwell's first piece.
Interesting.
Harley Strode, this is one that you've brought up to me before. Because you ran it for me, which was Sailors of the Starless Sea. And you're like, does that adventure remind you of something?
Of anything? Because knowing you being a big omelet fan, yeah.
So Harley said, yes, that was a big inspiration for that.
Sure.
So there's kind of another way to experience.
And if a lot of people that are DCC people, they rave about Harley's work, and a lot of people have cut their teeth on sailors or whatever, and rave about it, whatever. And so in some way, though, definitely Harley deserves all the credit, but interesting to see that he was inspired by another great, because Village is a great touchstone for D&D.
Which is funny because after I played that, I was so inspired by Harley's Vine horrors that I brought them back into the Moat House, where it had a motley crew of folks trying to spread these evil vines throughout the land. And that was before you came in. There was another group of PCs in this kind of ongoing living campaign thing. Those PCs had gone back and forth with the main bad guy, and they decided for some reason they were going to sleep in the dungeon. So, of course, they get captured.
Right.
And he says, if you guys will help us spread these seeds, you're free to go about your business. So, of course, they agreed to it.
And then followed through even. Oh,
yeah. And they did it. And then your group that was playing in it
had to deal with the aftermath.
Yeah. Which was the fun thing about that living, ongoing campaign in the world is somebody was always cleaning up the previous party's mess. It was like, well, this is what you guys did. And now that wouldn't have been a problem at all.
Yeah.
But they created it, and then you guys got to deal with it.
What's one of the saddest shames about you shelving that? Because I bet if you had a group playing that now, they'd be cleaning up our messes, which would be hilarious.
Yeah, because your mess was, you remember that?
Oh, you'll remind me. It's on the tip of my...
Let me just say, death, frost, doom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We unleashed the undead hell. Yeah. So, woof. If you thought the vine things were bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you thought they screwed up.
Think of the Army of Darkness times 10 or whatever. Yeah. So, oops. Yeah. Everybody had their oopsies in that,
Oops the doodle.
Oopsie, So anyway.
Okay. Since you know your early D&D trivia better than me, have you ever heard of the artist Jack Fred.
That sounds familiar. Oh, another thing, you were trying to remember a D&D artist and or comic artist named Walt something in a previous podcast recently. Was it Walt Simonson?
That's Thor, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Anyway. But no,
he didn't do that much for D&D, did he?
I want to think he did some in the early days, or unless I'm crazy, I think he did some stuff.
But not
a lot. He wasn't as prolific as or Dat or whatever, Trampier, who did so much stuff in the early days. He did a few things at some point, but yeah.
This is one of the things that we did talk about on the other podcast, but damn it, it's interesting enough to bring it up.
But you
again.
said Fred something or no?
Jack Fred.
Jack Fred. It sounds familiar, but
so that is a name used by TSR artists when they had to do their work quickly, and maybe it wasn't their best, or they weren't totally happy with it, and sometimes it's an in joke.
But they had to just kind of slap it out there.
Yeah, so like your Alan Smithy for movies or whatever. So Jack Fred had virtually every credit in Temple of Elemental Evil. It's all done by Jack Fred.
Wow.
Which was Elmore, Easley, and Parkinson.
Wow, so they weren't really they were kind of under the gun, like, hurry up, we need this by midnight. So that was all Jack Fred. That is a neat bit of trivia,
and
man.
Some of it might have been like, well, Jack Fred's done 10 of these. He can do all 20 of them or what have you. Yeah. So it could have been one of those things too, but yeah, that was their, like, we had to go faster on that. And I mean, there's lots of beautiful art in there.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be an Easley or Elmore or something like that to be like, this is not
my best work, and you're like, whatever, this is way better than
if I could draw your hastily whipped out stuff, I'll give my left arm or something.
Right.
Here's one that's just interesting to me and you, maybe. You will remember this when we went on our little visit of Lake Geneva. The old statue of Andy Gump. Do you know who sculpted that?
It turns out it was somebody we know.
Jeff Easley.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Yeah.
The crazy facts. But that actually has a little bit of write-up in that Temple of Elemental Evil Goodman Games thing, too. So, I mean, these are lots of little trivia tidbits I learned from that. Yeah. Here's one that I wanted to bring up, too. Changes from 1st edition to 5th edition. So, Area 35 of the Moat House is where my boy, Lawrence the Beautiful, hangs out. And for those of you that don't know, Lawrence the Beautiful, I have that little mini, and about 90% of the time when I'm playing a game, that's who I use as my mini. Lawrence the Beautiful with that outstretched staff.
Yeah, and the shield. Yeah.
So, he is a challenge rating 3. His horde should be 500 gold pieces. That's breaking him down into 5th edition terms. Plus 1d4 magic items.
Wow.
What he has is 3 magic items, one of those being an extremely rare staff, the Staff of Striking, which I love that thing. And he has 21,000 gold pieces worth of treasure.
Wow.
5th edition, he should have 500. Old school, he's got 21,000. And that's, ripping everything off the walls, taking the beautiful rugs and stuff like that, but still.
And here's the neat thing to think about old school D&D. You leveled by treasure value. You could see a party, if they took him down, you're all 2nd level.
And that's back in the day when you're like, yeah, we're taking all the furniture out of here and selling it.
We're taking those guys' swords and what they have gold fillings. We pry those out. Hence the term in the old Living Greyhawk days to just quickly tell the GM, we're going to take every damn thing that might be of value. We'd say, we Greyhawk the room. We're just going to, we're taking the carpets and the drapes. Yeah.
The 5th edition version of this has an encounter before you get to Hommlet, which is something that as a GM, I've always done that.
I remember on the way back, me and Rob got hijacked by wolves or something. The one time it was just me and him, and we're like, you're like, well, you guys want to pack it in? We're like, we want to play, and you're like, just the 2 of y'all? All right then, And that's why old school, you used to hire an NPC or something. Apparently we didn't think to do that or I had a derp moment,
But the way that this starts is you get the big, massive wall of text, and then you're in a village. There's no excitement until you make some, and you can be exploring the village for a while. So that's why I like to put one in right off the cuff. And go, okay, I've given you your combat fix for a little bit. Now you can relax. And
well, that was like when Cody had his adventure with the witch, which was really well done, but it's kind of like there was a lull for a while, and I said, why don't you have the party get waylaid by a throwaway encounter on the way into town? I think we gave him that recommendation. Same kind of principle. Give them a little of excitement. Then there'll be the town where some people will have fun, interact with NPCs, whether one guy's over here playing on his phone waiting for the next combat to start, But I will say, when you ran this for us, poor Carrie was, like playing the warrior and wanted to just kill. And again, like you said, we get into town and we're all like interacting with the NPCs and getting to know them and having fun. And you added another layer of intrigue in, which definitely had me over here.
There's a goblin in the mayor's manor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. And so I had a lot of fun.
That was the false Hydra.
Okay, yeah. So I remember that. We had fun with that. And
so for those of you that are not familiar with this, it's one of those hip things. It's the avocado toast of D&D, perhaps.
Yeah, man.
But there is a creature called the false Hydra, and it sings. And when it's singing, it alters your memories. Mm-hmm. So that was the thing. They would go and be like, well, we're at the mayor's house. We don't have a mayor. It was all that kind of stuff. Oh, and the one that I remember that was really fun was you guys had gone to the inn, and that night the innkeeper's wife served you, and you're like, well, it's kind of like, this is Joe Smith's inn. It's like, well, where's Joe? There is no Joe. There's never been a Joe. And it's like, the missus that's serving you guys, and then when you wake up the next morning, you're being served by their children, and it's like, where's the adult that's running this? And it's like, no, we've been running this for years. And it's just all this stuff that it keeps getting more and more obvious.
Yeah, it was just so weird, and so we were having a lot of fun with that, and we were like, okay, what's going on here? And so, yeah, forget getting out to the dungeon. We were hanging out in town because we were so intrigued and wanted to figure this mystery out. So bravo, sir, as usual. Wonderful job.
But that's a good example of how wonderful the village is. You don't even need the dungeon.
No,
you can do so much for your own stuff.
Poor Carrie was over here just like biting the edge of the table because she wanted to kill some stuff. And we're all like, we got to get to the bottom of this mystery, whatever. We were having a lot of fun with it. But again, it goes to show you how Eddie ran me on that very same adventure, Village of Hommlet, easily in the time I've known him 5 different times, and each time was a different and enjoyable experience.
Do you remember the time that you got to the frogs and they were elemental frogs?
Yep.
That was a lot of fun right there too. I think you guys maybe were a little bit higher level because we started at 3rd level.
Right.
So I was like, the straight off frogs by themselves might not be a challenge. But then it's like,
now they're spitting
this
fire,
one breathes fire, and that one shoots lightning, and
this one had an acid mist that would barf out.
This one explodes when it dies.
Yeah, and that's fun.
So fun.
So that's where you could take an adventure like I said that's been, and you could spruce it up and change things up. It's brilliant.
And speaking of another time you got to play it, man, you've played this a ton of times.
Yeah, as I said, the mist rolled in before we can even get to town, and about the time I went, oh shit, are we? And I looked over and you winked and I went, you asshole! I knew what was happening. We were transported to the demi-plane of dread. Yeah, if a GM goes, a strange mist rolls in, and you hear the howling of wolves, yeah, you're fixing to go
punch
to Raven.
Him in the face.
Yeah, punch him in the face and run. You're going to Ravenloft,
Well, so one of the things that I think we've talked about just like in dungeon design in general is the big wall of text to introduce you to it. And I'm not a fan of that, except for when I am a fan of it. When I do it, like Carnage, here's your big text wall of introduction. I am sorry. I don't know why that's how it poured out. But this one, Village, also has one of those, and it's really cool, and it really sets the mood, and it's got so many vocabulary words in it for you.
Well, back in the day, definitely Excelsior, and I mean, Gygax and them.
A small herd of kine.
Yeah.
What is kine?
Yeah.
They're cows, my friends. They're cows.
Yeah.
For weal or woe, that'll always be one of my favorite lines too. What will you find? All those questions at the end of that intro.
Gygax was good at what he did. But what I liked is how you could have, like, I remember playing. It was actually by I feel so bad. The Lindor Isles and Bone Hill, which I love. That was done by. I feel bad, but the guy who died not too long ago, Lynn. That's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway. I love how you have these quick little bite-sized snippets, and that's why I think for the old stat blocks were smaller, you could do it. And so yeah, you had that wall of text, but as far as the individual entries for different rooms or areas, they gave you, it was very Spartan.
Oh yeah.
But they hit that sweet spot where it was just enough that you could work with, but not, they could keep the thing under 18 pages or whatever, you know. And there's a lot there in 18 pages. I mean, you get your money's worth definitely in Village of Hommlet.
I was going to say, whenever I run it, the traders almost always get a spy into the party because the traders are evil. They're spies for the temple.
Yeah.
So the parties almost always fall into the trap.
That might be why we didn't hire an NPC. Yeah, because I think we were on to them or whatever.
The 5th edition version, it offers a lot of challenge reduction, about half the number of zombies, 6 bugbears to the portals, switch that to 2. So there's a lot of it where they tried to obey the old school, follow what was done before, but they realized in a modern setting,
It's just too brutal.
yeah. So that's one thing to consider there too,
Interesting.
if you want that experience. Because it's in there. It's like, hey, if you want to have 6 bugbears here, okay, but the party's going to die.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have to play smart.
And that's, I didn't say it, but I was thinking, or bring your A game.
Green slime in 5th edition.
See, now it's a trap. It used to be an actual monster encounter.
It does 1d10 damage until it's removed.
Ouch. And you're talking about first, second, third level characters?
Instead of just dissolving you, though.
Yeah.
And then how many hit points does a first level fighter have now?
Right. But the other thing is, it used to ruin your armor and weapons and all kind of crap on top. Bad enough that it would kill you almost, but then also it would ruin a lot of your gear.
Yeah. Keep in mind, ghouls are a lot weaker now, too.
Everything is. I mean, you know.
But ghouls got so neutered, it makes me cry.
I know. That was pucker factor. You know?
Oh, yeah. Back in the day when it was like
ghouls,
claw, bite.
Yeah. And then you're apt
These
to
are gonna
paralyze
paralyze you.
And if you're paralyzed, you're stuck there paralyzed. And I mean, I think a horrific to describe. And as you stand here watching two ghouls carry you off and begin to take bites out of you or something as as your friends go, no, and watch your, I mean, yeah, I remember a description there. That's why the first time players played D&D and fought a ghoul, the next time when I started that description, you'd hear them go, well, no, I run, forget it, I flee, or I'll throw that potion I've been saving for that right occasion, that explosion, or I mean, you know.
I think in our Osric party at one time in the beginning, there was only humans.
Oops. That's why you bring an elf. Yeah.
Because there's like, oh, he can put the touch on all of you.
Yeah.
So you better make them saves because nobody can just shake it off. Kind of like sleep.
And
You're
trying
all
to
going to sleep.
remember, I don't think it was all the attacks in first edition because that had just been too brutal, but it was like their bite carried it or their claws, one or the other. But
I want to say claw.
Yeah. And so the deal was that's 2 of the 3 attacks.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you know, and saving throws sucked in the earlier editions of the game. So you were going to get paralyzed. I mean, it was just, yeah.
There's an early encounter in the moat house with an ogre.
Ogres are no joke in the old school.
Good old Lubbish the ogre. But that one, you had to play a little bit smarter too and kind of outwit the big brute.
Yeah.
He was always way too much for the party, and that was another time where you needed tactics.
And that's the ogre in Keep on the Borderlands when he's in one of the earlier caves. Like it's sprinkled in with the goblin cave and the kobold cave where you're figuring, oh, we're in the chump area. No, there's an ogre in the mix, you know. And I think like the goblins have bribed him, you know, to appease him. So like if you're attacking the goblins and you're really getting the best of them, the chief goblin will go, hey, go get the ogre or whatever. Tell him we need him, and then the ogre shows
Wake the
up.
gimp.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to gimp you all right. But.
And then just there having old Laurent the Beautiful. Always enjoyed that. That's always a big fight for the party because he's got that Staff of Striking +3,
Ouch.
which if he expends 3 charges can do triple damage.
Yeah, you're dead.
So, yeah, I would lead off on that one in the old school day. He'd look over to the fighter and use command and be like, run. Then they're gone for at least 2 rounds, and he just smacks the poop out of the next tanky type person with that staff.
Ouchie.
Such a good, tense fight for the players. When you've beat him, you've done something.
You got bragging rights, yeah. And you deserve all the loot you get.
Yep.
Yeah. So it really is a shame to
high
think
risk, high reward.
that but is he still in 5th edition? High risk, high reward.
I don't know.
They kind of took his teeth away and took his loot away. Some you might go, well, he's not as dangerous, but what a shame. I'd rather bring that heated booyah fight and give me the loot.
But since we're now besmirching the 5th edition version a little, I will say that they have added in a lot of overland areas. So you always had that map back in the day, and it was like, here it is. What's there?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to populate it.
Yeah.
So the folks at Goodman Games did a good job with that, fleshing it out a lot more.
Because that's one of the things I've complained about is like, I see games come out where like, here's bullet points, I don't need your ideas. I need this fleshed out. I want a complete whole product. So good for them that they gave you those. They fleshed out the overland encounters for you.
They filled out Nolb. That's the town that you'd probably go to after Hommlet on your way to the Temple of Elemental Evil. That's been really fleshed out, where that was kind of just bullet points before. So I think they did a really good job with that. It does make me interested to try and play it. The last few things here, where do you remember when you guys got to the Temple of Elemental Evil and there are the fear doors? The ones, that's the one where it's like, you fail this save and you will never ever be able to approach these doors again in your life. Which you can get around fine without it, but that's just an interesting old school thing that this is forever. And inside the actual first level of the temple, there was a tile pattern. I think it's like red and brown and white and green or whatever. And I had one of my players so many years ago that they got in and they did not know what that tile pattern was. And I said, I will never tell you until you go back and play it. So to this day, I still talk to that person and they still have no idea what those tile patterns are about. So I thought that was a fun little, because I mean, really, if you wanted to know badly enough, you could go spoil it for yourself.
Yeah.
But keep the mystery alive.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I could
keep dangling that carrot.
Yeah. But it sounds like you had a lot of fun researching that.
Yeah. It was really good. All that pretty much was gleaned through the Goodman Games book. So again,
you'd have to
run out and grab it.
20 different websites and pour over stuff. It's right there.
Well,
the work had been done
too,
for a lot of it. Yeah.
Because I probably could have gone to like a Greyhawk Grognard or Grognardia or what have you, and listened to a million other podcasts talk about it. But how is that our experience, and how is that our opinion?
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for sharing that with us, man.
Well, you're welcome. You have anything that you want to add now that I've rambled on for a while?
No. But I wonder if, like, let's say, I was to pose ideas for topics.
Naked.
No, thank you. But here's like an idea of how to be an ambassador of the hobby.
Oh, you closed up. See, I have pushed away my notes, so that's how Matt was like, I guess he's done.
Yeah.
Matt opened up the phone to look at his notes, and I was like, oh, he's going to pose some topics of interest to the listeners.
Yeah, no, I am.
So I got one topic.
Okay.
And then you closed the phone.
Well, go ahead.
No. It was there.
Oh.
Did you have like, hey, how would you guys like
Yeah,
A?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go, would you like A, B, or C?
Sure. No, and I was, but the other ones are here, but that one was in the phone. So like, how would you like us to talk about how to be a good ambassador of the hobby?
Okay.
Or have us talk about luck in games, or
in reality, as in real, actual, how is your luck at games? Or using luck in games, like your luck score.
Exactly. Like as a, different dynamics with luck, and it is an ability in different games I've seen. It turns out it's not just Goodman Games and DCC that uses luck, as it turns out. And so I thought we could cover that as a topic, how to be an ambassador of the hobby, or it seems like you had an idea.
I'm full of ideas.
Okay.
Actually, we had talked about doing the Game Wizards and what was the other one? Shadows of Blackmoor?
Yeah.
Kind of talking about the earliest days of D&D.
Sure.
That will be an episode at some point.
That's gonna that'll be a whole episode. I feel like.
Matt's just got to finish his reading assignment.
Yeah, and I promise, I'm gonna get it.
And I want to say there's one more thing that we had lined up, kind of, sort of, that we're like, yeah, that would be a good episode.
Yeah, we'll have to. That's probably posted somewhere,
But all of Matt's suggestions, if there's any of those that you would like to see us get to sooner,
Yeah.
or if you have an idea,
Please, anything like along those lines, like a topic or an idea, something you'd like to hear us babble about, or
if you've got a question,
yeah, absolutely.
if you've got a comment, if you've got a complaint,
feedback,
if you want to tell us how much better you enjoyed this than the Temple of Elemental Evil on this old dungeon, Jonathan, you better. This is kindly picking. I do appreciate them thinking highly enough of me to be a special guest on theirs.
No, Lou's cool, and Bill Barsh
Lou
was
is
there.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Lou gave me so much help doing this first Kickstarter. I can't thank him enough.
No, Lou's a super great guy.
Bill, we've known forever.
Yeah, gosh.
So that was like
We've been
old folks
barshed.
home again.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of good things to add in because he's like, yeah, I was there.
No, that's what's wild. Yeah, he was there in the early days. Yeah, man. I mean,
And
literally
in the right
there.
part of the world.
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh, and we had talked about the Dash for Cash, kill everything for loot.
yeah, because we stole that from him, and it turns out he stole it from somebody else.
So
back in the
we had a
day.
mutual admiration society on that. And he says he's probably going to come to the Long Con this year.
It's about
Pace
time.
Setter Games.
Pace Setter, yeah. A lot of great. I own actually, I own quite a bit of his old school stuff. I've got that one box set. It's like the blood. I ran you and Layla and TJ on it, and remember Layla ended up getting the house. She got the house as she won the deed to the house, and y'all had
The
to clear
Millennial
it.
Dream.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the new D&D. Oh, well,
Exactly.
while we're dragging this out just a little bit more,
yeah,
because we went almost 3 hours with them, I figure we can go an hour and a half, right?
yeah, right.
And we're not that close yet. But the next edition of D&D is almost on our doorsteps. And I'm going to butcher the name right now, but it's like Mordekainen Presents the Mythical Monsters or whatever. Have you heard of this, or you're completely, because I know you're not really keeping up with the 5th edition stuff now.
You see the look on my face.
Yeah.
I have no idea what
Video
you're talking about.
podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm perplexed and vexed a bit even.
So the latest book that is coming out, you can get it right now today.
And
I think.
and this is their tantalization little
It starts
teaser
laying the groundwork.
for the next edition.
But the
Because
thing is, if you want to get it now today, you have to buy it in a 3-pack with Xanathar's and Tasha's Cauldron of Infinite Goodness or whatever. And I want to say it's about 168, something along those lines.
ain't
for the
none
3
of them
books.
books cheap. Yeah,
That's the only way you can get it right
how
now.
thoughtful.
The book by itself will not be released until May. If you want it by itself, like I already own the other 2.
Wow.
Wait till May. The digital version, not out till May.
Of course not. That no comment.
Yeah.
No comment.
So anyway, but that is where it should be introducing, I want to say like 30 new player races or something like that. And it is where it's turning into the like, monsters don't have alignments and all races are the same. Where, the traditional, like the elf gets a +1 to his intelligence and he takes a -1 to his constitution sort of thing. The old traditional. And the ogre, the half orc, gets a +2 to strength, but he gets a -2 to intelligence.
So now it's just flavor description.
Yeah. Because
Wow.
every race is as good as the human race.
Right.
Which the human has kind of had the variant human or something like that. Because it's like, you're not sexy, fool. So we'll give you like adaptability as your thing.
All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
All animals run the same speed. The snail and the cheetah should all have the same speed stat.
Yeah, we're going to do a test on climbing. Oh darn, the fish failed.
But I mean, I kind of don't like that for the races, for the racism of this, because it's easy enough to select it at the beginning. You're like, I'm playing a wizard. I'm going to be an elf because they get an intelligence bonus, instead of, well, I'm going to play a wizard and now I play anything in the world because I can give anything in the world the intelligence bonus.
And that could be a good thing in a way, because it got to where things got
tropey.
power gamey, to where it's like all the priests are dwarves because they get a wisdom bump, and all the warriors are half orcs get a strength bump. All the wizards are elves because they get, it's kind, because people are all like, I got to wheedle out that every little benefit and bonus or whatever. And it's like,
but now you can. It's not because you're like, I'm going to play a wizard, but now I'm going to play an orc. and or half orc, and I'm still going to get that +2 to intelligence bump because
and
I
that's
can.
what I'm getting at is at
Take
least
the minus
Yeah.
and show me why your less intelligent wizard is so cool.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm taking up for them, but in this instance, actually, this is kind of a good thing in that people will maybe start being more interesting in their selections of like, yeah, I'm going to play a half orc wizard because there's not some detriment to doing it now.
But it's all flavor.
Exactly.
Instead of, if you mechanically do something, that would be more interesting to me.
Yeah, but the fact is, like you said, you started seeing that this samey kind of thing.
Okay, so what is the difference between my wizard elf and my wizard half elf? Because they're both the most intelligent thing you've ever run into.
Yeah.
It's not like you're dealing with the mechanical differences. Like playing a wizard that's not very smart, and to go back to the example we always go back to, the DCC one, where it's like the fighter was smarter than the wizard, but the wizard was stronger than the fighter. But that's interesting. That's different. That's something we can talk about 100 times.
Yeah, and the elegant thing about DCC is you can have a character that's got a 10 strength and still be highly effective because of the D die, and you can be playing that wizard with a lower intelligence and still by the dynamic of the stats aren't very swingy in DCC. If you have a 13 intel or you have a 10 intel, it's one. I mean, if you have a 9 intel, it's 1 point different to cast your spells. Whoop-de-doo,
I think it's going to be more hegemony.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, you're going to lose some of the flavor because your elf and your orc, they don't have any different backgrounds. The elves and the dwarfs, it's like we're equally good at casting spells.
I mean, shouldn't half orc wizards be a rare thing? Wouldn't you think? But now, no. Why half orcs could be wizards as well as anybody?
What's kind of like a goodly aligned drow was a rare snowflake.
And now it's dime a dozen.
Hey, we were all good all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't enjoy it. I'm just saying,
But so I will say, you think the game's kind of less than, like it's really lost something by doing that?
See, that kind of leads me to old grumpy man on a cold gray day.
No, but that's the whole thing about that thing I posted the other day about, like, are you gatekeeping? No.
Yeah, you can enjoy your game your way, however you want. Let me enjoy my game however I want.
Exactly, yeah. So it's one of those things to where, no, I mean, absolutely. But if someone comes and screams at you for, you didn't fall in line, you're not playing it the new way, you grump, poor old mean old man,
Well, the 50th anniversary is about 2 years away, I think is what they said.
Wow, yeah, damn.
And for that, there will be the new evolution. They're not saying version. So it may be 5.5 or something.
Yeah, because honestly, right now, 5th edition is so popular, insanely popular. To move away from it now, I think they'd be shooting themselves in the foot.
But we're starting another podcast. Well, I mean, this could be its own topic.
Yeah,
where we talk about, 5.5 is coming down the road. Yeah. What are the impacts going to be on gaming?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How many people are going to jump off at that? How many people are going to jump off when there's an actual 6? How will cons survive? Because from 3.5 Living Greyhawk to 4th, that was the cataclysm of D&D right there in a lot of ways.
That's how Pathfinder got its foot in the door and became the preeminent role-playing game for a few years there. For a while there, it was all Pathfinder. D&D literally shit the bed. Excuse my French, for those of you who don't like blue language, but I mean, really, they shit the bed with 4th edition. And there are people out there like me. I enjoyed 4th edition, so I don't think I'm poo-pooing on 4th edition, but there were a lot of people that were very mad at, they were like, I like 3rd edition. I invested in it. I bought the books. I liked it. Why would you go away from it? And 4th wasn't the thing to go away from it with. 5th is, because 5th is more of a re-embracing of less rules and more role-playing, because 3rd got to be like, you need a college course for that crap. It was stupid. Someone asked me, if you've listened to this podcast, I kind of poo-poo on 3rd edition. It was just way too convoluted, way too much math, way too much, I'm on one foot wearing a green shirt on Tuesday,
You'll appreciate this. When I was at Games to Go the other day, and one of the guys up there was saying, we're about to start playing 3.5 again, and the GM is like, no power gaming.
How good luck with that?
Yeah, how that's so baked in.
Well, and that's the thing. The other day, this came up talking to somebody. That was what was so sad about 3rd edition was, if you knew what you were doing, you could make the most one-trick pony, broken ass, run over everything, spoil everybody's fun character. But if you really didn't know what you were doing, or you were kind of an
You make
idiot,
the most useless.
you could have the most useless character possible. And there are these guys that would beam in with pride over this character, and I'd be looking at them going, your character's worthless. And I can't help but resent the guy who brings the one-trick pony to the table, but just as much or more I resent the guy that brings a character who's not bringing anything to the table to help, you know. And so, and definitely that was 3.5. I know a handful of people that made incredibly useless characters that you were just like, dude, you know. But anyway.
So your takeaway from today is make an interesting character.
Yeah.
And make a
Effective.
useful character to the party. Make a fun character for the party.
Yeah, Cody made that comment at the table when we were doing, we did DCC Legacy campaign. My table did at the game club last Thursday. And Cody, it was like an aside, was like, yeah, Matt's a power gamer or something, pointing at me.
That's true.
And because I was worried that the players at the table they were so used to D&D, they were going to not like the fact that they had 6s and 7s and 8s for some of their stats. And I said, guys, I explained DCC's not real swingy, and these will still be highly effective characters, and da-da-da-da. Well, so Cody made that comment, and I didn't deny it, but I said, but let me quantify that statement. I've sat down to make characters for a campaign, and it's even harder on me because I went through 6 characters, because all 6 were incredibly effective characters, but 2 or 3 of them just wouldn't be fun to play. For the party, for me, there's not any really good role-playing hooks, but so I have to find that one that appeases both sides of me, the power gaming side, but also the one where they have a rich potential for role play and interaction.
They need life breathed into them.
Yeah, and those are the ones though that God, it's like, woohoo! I'm gonna have fun playing this because I'm gonna, bam, destruct and destroy. But also, there's some good subplotting potentials and role playing and all that. So technically, I have a tougher row to hoe, if you will, you know. So anyway. But yeah, definitely get out there and have some games, roll some dice, have some fun. I'm really excited about.
Let us know how it goes in your games.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let us know. Definitely.
Carnage in the Casino.
Yeah.
Carnage in the Kakaka. Well, duh.
That's easy for you to say, duh.
Well, duh. That has shipped. So if you are listening to this, it is on its way to your home right now. Give me some positive feedback, because that's all my ego can handle.
Yeah, please do.
If you have something negative to say, whisper it into your pillow at night and don't tell anyone else.
And if you didn't do the Kickstarter, boo on you. If you're hearing this and didn't, you'll be able to purchase a copy from Goodman Games in the near future.
Yep. And if you track me down at Gary Con, NTRPG, or The Long Con,
and touch him on the PP,
you can get a copy for yourself. Oh, and it's starting to be picked up in local game stores.
What?
So you'll be able to go to stores near me, not near you, near me, and get yourself a copy. And there are a few game stores, like Etten Games has got it already. And
I can't even think of the other one. Purveyor of fine role-playing and gaming goods.
They're one of the
Yet
best.
they're carrying yours,
and they're in the new spot.
Oh, I
want to check that out.
Well, they have multiple locations, isn't it? Or do they just move?
I think they just moved.
Oh, well, that old location was nice, but I could see them expanding into a bigger venue
because their new spot is like just across the parking lot from the old one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, I mean, they even have that going for them, where it's not like, we moved across town. Well, I'm not going now that you're across town.
Right,
it's like, you used to come to Suite 100. Now you have to come to Suite 104.
Yeah.
Whoopity-doo.
Yeah, well, no, it really is. Me and Eddie, we were incredibly impressed by the venue and the staff. They were really knowledgeable and very helpful. And Dave's a great guy, so definitely throw him a bone. Go check him out.
And you can even order from them online at Etten Games.
What?
Online.
How convenient.
Okay.
Yes.
I think our plugs are done. I will send out the bills for all these promotions that we've done.
No shit. We should get a kickback.
And looking at the clock on the wall, we're all out of hit points. Bye-bye.